Zionism and a connection to Israel is part of the identity of the overwhelming majority of Jewish people. And as if it's any better to say, oh, well, it's because it's Israel. It's part of this program, this vicious campaign to portray Israel and anyone who won't disavow Israel, which is the vast majority of Jews, as a unique evil in the world, as though everything that is bad in the world stems from it. It is sinister. It is discriminatory, it is racist, and people are being allowed to get away with it and have been allowed to get away with it for too long.
It is a visit by a Jewish MP to a school in his own constituency, which was cancelled after a campaign by pro-Palestinian teachers. Some parents also threatened to keep their children off school when Damien Egan, the Labour MP for Bristol North East, was due to visit the Bristol Brunel Academy in September. That event was cancelled. The boycott was supported by the Teachers' Union, the National Education Union, and some teachers threatened to wear keffiyehs, traditional Arab scarves, if the MP came. Damien Egan is the Vice Chair of Labour Friends of Israel. Labour's Home Affairs Minister Alex Norris told us that the boycott was unacceptable, but we shouldn't think it's a common occurrence. Well, Stephen Silverman is the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Antisemitism and joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
In your view, given your experience of this, is this legal? Is it legal to refuse a visit from an MP on these grounds?
Well, it's certainly discriminatory, and it is very much another step in the process by people who have this ideology of trying to exclude or make life difficult for Jews in public spaces. This banning of Jews from educational establishments has very, very sinister overtones, and certainly does. And, one doesn't want to be hyperbolic about it, but it absolutely does echo what took place in the 1930s in Germany. And, you can there's a direct connection between this and what we saw outside the restaurant Miznon, the Israeli restaurant in London, where diners, just trying to have a peaceful meal, had to listen to people a few yards from them chanting for support for the actions of Hamas, which effectively, calls for the death of Jews. The world is gradually becoming a smaller place for Jews, and there seems to be little inclination to do much to halt it at the moment.
I mean, the teachers and the parents at the school, in what they have posted publicly about this story, have suggested that their opposition to the visit was not about Damien Egan's Jewishness. It was that he is an officer, he's vice chairman of the Labour Friends of Israel group, and that they took to be essentially support for the Israeli government. That seems to be the way that this has been interpreted. Can you separate those two things in this context, do you think?
Look, you absolutely can't. There has been this horrendous gaslighting of the public to try to persuade people that being Jewish and effectively we're talking about Zionism are two separate things, that they're not connected. They are connected. Zionism and a connection to Israel is part of the identity of the overwhelming majority of Jewish people. And, as if it's any better to say, oh, well, it's because it's Israel. It's part of this program, this vicious campaign to portray Israel and anyone who won't disavow Israel, which is the vast majority of Jews, as a unique evil in the world, as though everything that is bad in the world stems from it. It is sinister, it is discriminatory, it is racist, and people are being allowed to get away with it and have been allowed to get away with it for too long.
So what do you think ought to be done here? Because, I mean, we have a statement from the school involved who suggests, and it's quite a lengthy statement, but they suggest basically that on the evening, and I'm quoting now, before Mr. Egan's scheduled visit, we were made aware of plans for a public protest outside the school. We opted to postpone the visit to ensure everyone would continue to feel safe when entering and exiting the school and to prevent any disruption to our students' learning. He was there apparently to discuss democracy and his role as an MP. They go on to say that they've been in touch with the police and followed the police's advice on the situation. I mean, what do you think should happen now? Because there is clearly such a strength of feeling at this particular school, and it's not the only one, but banning an MP from talking about democracy, it just seems completely wrong. What can be done about this?
Well, the couple of things there. The strength of feeling at the school is part of the problem. It's a strength of feeling that's been whipped up on basically anti-Israel and anti-Jewish propaganda. And that's been the feature of the last, well, slightly more than 2 years. In terms of how it's, and you know, there are really worrying echoes of what's going on in Birmingham at the moment with West Midlands Police, where quote, concerns in the community have resulted in the banning of Jews from going to the city. We just can't have this. And whoever made this decision at the school, they need to be, you know, dealt with quite harshly. And I would suggest removed from their job, because they are actually pursuing a racist, discriminatory policy. And there's no other words for it.
I just want to read you the response from the Bristol Palestine Solidarity Campaign. This is what they posted publicly on Facebook. The planned school visit by Damien Egan, MP for Bristol North East, has been cancelled after concerns were raised by the NEU, the National Education Union, staff group, parents and local constituents. This is a clear message. Politicians who openly support Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza are not welcome in our schools. Egan is Vice Chair of Labour Friends of Israel and has visited Israel since the current onslaught on Gaza began, demonstrating his support. That was the public post from the Palestine Solidarity Campaign in Bristol after the fact that this visit was cancelled. Do you think those people who posted that, and the Bristol NEU, who also celebrated the cancellation, quote, as a win for safeguarding solidarity and for the power of the NEU trade union staff group, do you think they ought to be able to stay in their posts?
No, well, you are, of course, quoting a post from an organisation whose marches have consistently been characterised by calls for the eradication of the world's only Jewish state, support for Hamas, swastikas, calls to globalise the Intifada, and other disgraceful, shameful manifestations of hatred towards Jewish people. And the way in which the NEU basically gloated on publicly about what happened was abhorrent. So no, I don't think that, you know, there needs to be some root and branch changes somewhere, but we need to see the political will to make that happen.
Stephen Silverman, Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Antisemitism, thank you for giving us your time.